Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is What If Naruto Was Ghost of Anbu and Harem with INO, Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Seriously? The red-headed girl deadpanned. Nope. He laughed, getting a sweat drop from both girls. So who is she? She asked, pointing at Sakura. Ah yes. This is Haruno Sakura. I have taken her as my student till the Chunin exam in 3 months. Then she will rejoin her teammate who is also being trained in private, he explained, and Sakura bowed. It's nice to meet you. The bubblegum girl bowed but stopped when she realized that she didn't know the other girl's name. Well then, would you do me the honor? The redhead asked the vampire teen, who shrugged carelessly. Sakura, let me introduce you to my cousin Uzumaki Tayuya, the temporary Uzukage and second clan head of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto introduced his family member. It's nice to meet you, Uzumaki-sama. Sakura bowed again. Oh, stop with the formalizations. I hate that crap. Tayuya cursed, making Sakura's eyes widen. But, she stuttered. No, but, just call me Tayuya. You are a friend of Na-chan, so it's alright. She explained with a if you don't do it I will ram my foot up your ass so high that you can lick my toes without a problem aura. Sakura only nodded, not wanting to anger the red-headed Kage in any way. So what are you here for, Na-chan? Tayuya asked as she walked up to him and gave him a hug. I'm searching for the Fox clan. It's almost time, he explained as he returned the hug. They are here. In Uzu? She asked, baffled that such a powerful clan had come to the city without anyone noticing before she snuggled into his chest again. No, they are somewhere in the land of whirlpools. They usually don't come to the city if they can avoid it. He shrugged and slipped out of the embrace, much to his cousin's displeasure. So when are you leaving again? She asked, trying to snatch his arm to cling to it. We have 3 months till we have to return to Konoha. Till then we will stay here and train, he explained, calm, moving his arms a bit to avoid her hands. That sounds good. You two will be staying with me then, she stated, firm but with a big smile, but frowned at his escaping arms. If you insist, Ta-chan. He bowed and she finally caught his arm. Come on, I will lead you to temporary domicile. She smiled and guided the two out of the office. But not before Naruto created a shadow clone to take up the paperwork. Grumbling, said clone set himself to the fight of his life. The three made their way towards the apartment on the floor below. Everyone they passed bowed to the Kage and his cousin. They respected Tayuya like their true Kage, but as long as Naruto was in town he was just that. As they stopped before a red door with golden dragons on both sides, Tayuya reached for it and poured some chakra in it. A clicking noise was heard and the door opened into the room. Welcome to my modest domicile. Tayuya mock bowed to Sakura as she dragged her cousin in. The bubblegum girl shook her head at Tayuya's behavior and shrugged it off as her missing Naruto before she followed the two. Inside, she gasped. The room was luxurious, furnished. 2 dark red huge 3-seater couch, a 2-seater couch and 3 1-seater. A huge oak couch table with flowers on top of it. The kitchen was made of white marble and being contrasted by the cherry wood floor. Further in, she saw 2 huge bedrooms with white oak wood floors and cream-colored king-sized beds. You like it, Sakura? Naruto asked from the kitchen. She only nodded and watched him fill 3 glasses with his hip flask. He handed one to Tayuya while he placed one for Sakura on the bar. With a nod from her sensei, she picked it up and took a sniff of it. The drink looked like liquid gold and smelled like honey. She shook her head, thinking it was some kind of juice. In one gulp she downed the glass and put it on the bar again. Naruto and Tayuya watched her with a smirk. Why are they smirking like that? She thought, confused before her world began to spin. Before she could do anything else, she collapsed on the floor, all limbs stretched out. Sakura was out like a light. She really can't handle alcohol. Tayuya laughed and downed her drink before she pulled another bottle of it from the cooler under the bar. Come on, she's only 12. What did you expect? The mead I make is some pretty hard stuff. Not even Tsunade's best sake can compare to its alcohol level. Naruto shrugged and downed his own glass. We aren't older, Na-chan. She poked his side. But we are already war veteran. I'm a immortal vampire, a avatar of the Shinigami here in the mortal world, who suffered at the hands of humans since my birth. You are a battle-hardened Uzumaki virgin who has been fighting for survival each day since your birth till I found you dying in a ditch. We have seen the darkness of this world and now we create as our own light here in Uzu, Naruto stated darkly. His eyes spoke of pain just as hers, yet a smile worked itself on her face. You know me, Na-chan. I already found my light. She smiled and cuddled herself in his chest. Her arms wrapped around his upper body and side content. Then her hands began to wander downwards towards his, as making him flinch. He removed himself from her grasp while shaking his head. Please stop this, Ta-chan. You know my heart belongs to someone else and we're family, he stated, barely hiding his mirth. I know, but I still want you. She pouted, cute. Come on, let's drink a bit. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. We could create a harem, for example. If you can convince my crush, that is. Naruto laughed and created a shadow clone to bring Sakura to a bed while he and Tayuya sat down to take a drink. Tayuya blushed at the idea of a harem and jumped on the couch right beside him. Both had a bottle of mead and set themselves to down them while talking about everything that happened since they saw each other the last time. Naruto-sensei, Sakura panted as she leaned against a tree. The two of them had been running through the forest outside Uzu for days now. To Sakura's dismay, her sensei had ordered her to rise her gravity seals by 5 kilograms each and her resistance seal to level 2 once they left the city. And despite her new weights, he didn't wait around. She didn't know what they were searching, but she knew it was important if Naruto's uneasiness was any indication. Yes, Sakura? He asked, calm as he reappeared behind her, making her jump slightly. He always did this, and no matter what she did, she couldn't help but feel freaked out. Can we take a break? The girl panted heavy. Sure. We reached our checkpoint anyway. The vampire sighed. After your break we will start your medicine training, but in the meantime think of a efficient genjutsu. The man sighed and fell out of the tree. Sakura fell down beside him and leaned against the tree. Her legs shook like a leaf, but she stayed strong and slowly sat down. Here, take a bite. Naruto threw her a bag she caught with a smile. Thanks, sensei. But what do you mean with thinking of a genjutsu? She asked, confused as she opened the bag and pulled a piece of dried meat and a bottle of tea out. I want you to think of a new jutsu. A vision you want to show someone. Like I did with Gato. Just use your imagination, he stated as he stared into the woods. But how do I do that? She was confused. Come on, girl. You are young and had a pretty life. Can't you think of something? I don't know. A pink fluffy unicorn jumping around on a rainbow, he shrugged, not looking at her. But what good would that be? The pink-haired girl was confused. That was an example. I have a few evil ones, but I want you to know your own boundaries. The teen sighed and sat on a tree stump. What kind of evil ones? She asked with glittering eyes. One that would shatter your mind by using your worst fear, he stated, calm. I don't understand. She was a bit down that he wouldn't tell her about his genjutsu. Sigh. One of my worst genjutsu against women, for example, a rape genjutsu. He sighed, making her gasp. But, she stuttered in panic. Like I said before, Sakura. I'm not human. Yes, I despite rapists and such, but that doesn't stop me from using everything I can to get what I want. I have genjutsu against man and woman. Old and young. I'm prepared for everything, but that doesn't mean that I have to like it. He sighed and finally looked at her. His eyes showed sorrow and anger. It was deep as the sea, making Sakura worry what he had gone through in his life. Look, Sakura. Just think about your happiest day and try to form an illusion from it. He sighed and picked a cigarette from his jacket. I would like it if you didn't smoke that stuff here. A new male voice said, making Sakura squeak. I was wondering when you would come out, Kitsune-san. Naruto smiled while putting the cigarette away. You have sharp instincts, my boy. I guess Kurami-sama likes you quite a lot, he said. An old man stepped out from behind a tree. He wore an orange cloak with a black dress-like robe under it. His white beard was laced with silver charms. You could say that. Kurami-ne-chan has been there for me since day one. She protected me from death despite my plea. Without her I would be an emotional cripple. The teen explained, serious. I guess you are here for the ritual? The old man asked with a soft smile. Oh, how did you know that? Naruto asked with a curious smile. Tomorrow is new moon and that is the only time to free my lady. He shrugged with a crooked smile. So then I'm in your care. Right, he bowed to the man who nodded. Follow me, my boy. Your student can come along if she wants, he said and began to walk away. Come on, Sakura. Naruto sighed and waved his student to follow him. The girl only nodded and stood up. The three walked in silence through the woods. A suddenly numbing feeling overcame the genin, but the strong hand of her sensei on her shoulder stopped her from falling over. Her eyes fluttered for a few seconds before she was back with them. Impressive young man. The old man acknowledged. You really thought AS class genjutsu could shock me? Sakura is only standing because of my Yuki. The vampire shrugged with a smile while Sakura was still shuddering. Welcome to my village then. The man shrugged. Naruto looked around and whistled while he nudged the girl beside him. Sakura also focused her eyesight and gasped. They stood before a village. It wasn't high-standard buildings like in Uzu or stone buildings like Konoha. They were only straw huts. What caught the newcomers' interest were the interesting features of the people walking around there. Everyone had fox ears on their heads and fox tails over their butt. What are these people? Sakura whispered. Please respect them, Sakura. They are the last of the Kitsune clan. Naruto answered with narrowed eyes. Huh, was her intelligent answer. We are fox demons, dear. A woman in her late 20s answered, making her jump. Wah, what do you mean? Sakura gasped. We are the descendants of Kurami-sama. The last fox demons in all the elemental nations. She smiled kindly. Oh. Yet another intelligent answer. Come on. Follow me, dear host. We have to prepare for the ceremony. The old man stated. Right. Okay, Sakura. Naruto turned to his student. You will work on your genjutsu like I told you to. After that, my clone will start your training. Your chakra reserves have grown quite a lot, so it's time to start. He explained and formed a shadow clone who stood by her. Naruto followed the old fox to a hut. Take off your shoes, socks, jacket and shirt. Then sit down in the mid of the room. We will start the preparations for the ceremony. The fox said, and Naruto followed his instructions. A noise behind the teen maid gave him notice of another presence. Yet he ignored it and sat down in a meditative stance. So you are ready? The man asked. Yes, sir. He nodded and a young fox woman stepped in his sight. Hello. My name is Lisa. I'll be the one to apply the ceremonially symbols on your body and web the holy ornaments in your hair, she explained with a smile. Well, my name is Naruto. It's nice to meet you. The vampire teen nodded, making her blush. Lisa began to apply the symbols of the old Kitsune language in silence. So what happens during the ceremony? He asked the old fox. Well, we will pray the holy chants and break the seal that binds Kurami-sama to you. After that, we will extract her essence from you and let her reform her body, he explained calmly. You know that would kill me, right? Naruto deadpanned. But you are no human, so you can survive the extraction, he explained. Good instinct. The teen guessed. No, but good nose. You smell like blood and death. A vampire, I would say. He explained, making Lisa gasp and stumble backwards. I guess you met someone of my kind before, he asked and got a nod from the man. By the way, I didn't get your name, Kitsune-san. The teen asked, calm, not shocked that he freaked the poor fox girl out. My name is Kenji. He smiled. Thanks. Now back to topic. It is unnecessary to break the seal. Kurami-chan is in me on her own free will because she knows that I'll die if we separate from each other, the teen explained, making Kenji go wide eyes. So Kurami-sama is in you of her own free will? He asked, shocked. Yes. She can form a body if she wants to, but we are still connected through a link, the bloodsucker explained. So we can shorten the ceremony by breaking the seal? Kenji asked with a big smile. Yes, but now back to my survival. I know my kind isn't well liked, but since I'm the only remaining one and that Motoko-chan chose me to be one speaks for me, don't you think? He shrugged and looked towards Lisa. I'm sorry if you had any bad meeting with my kind before. I swear that I'm not like the others. He smiled sweetly, showing the minimum of his fangs. Lisa shook her head and didn't say anything before she resumed her work. The old fox looked at him in wonder. Who is this Motoko you speak of? Kenji asked, I wonder, making the teen grin like a fool. Well, the great Shinigami, of course. He gave a fang smile. Yo, you, no, the great Shinigami, Kenji stuttered. Hell, he was afraid like hell. It's not every day that you meet someone who knew the Shinigami on first name basis. Lisa was no better, she was frozen in mid-swing of her brush. This man before her was friend with Shinigami, the highest goddess of her clan. Yes, Motoko-chan raised me after I left the village with my sensei. She was like a mother to me. I know that she devoured my parents' souls, but I still love her like my own flesh and blood. She gave me a new life. Naruto explained calmly, putting a hand on Lisa's arm, making her snap out of her stupor. Don't worry, Lisa-chan. Motoko-chan is a really nice woman. That brought a soft smile to her lips. Thank you, Naruto-sama. She smiled. Just call me Naruto. The teen laughed. Interesting kid. Kenji thought with a soft smile. So about the ritual. There is something you should know. He caught both teens' attention. And that would be? Naruto asked, confused. Well, like I said, you will die during the extraction, but you won't stay dead. Kenji gave the teen a toothy smile. What's that supposed to mean? The Jonin narrowed his eyes. You will be turned into one of us. A kitsune demon. He finished and walked out of the hut. Both teens sat there in silence and tried to comprehend what was just said. Me, a fox demon? Naruto thought, stunned. My Otudo becoming a kitsune. I knew I forgot something. Kurumi thought with a smile. Naruto-sama will become a kitsune like me, she thought with a blush. Oh god, don't tell me that Lisa has a first sight crush on me, the vampire thought, unsure. So, a vampire fox demon. Interesting. He muttered, stunned. Sakura watched her sensei walk away and felt a bit uneasy being left behind between all these kitsune demons and only to be protected by a shadow clone. Not to be rude, but what's your name, my dear? I'm Uzumaki Naruto and this is my student Haruno Sakura. Naruto asked the woman. It's an honor to meet you, Uzumaki-sama. I have heard much about you. My name is Kalila. The now identified Kalila explained. No surname? He asked with a rose eyebrow. Well, we all share the same surname in this village since we are the Kitsune clan. She bowed slightly. Ah, I'm sorry for not thinking about this. Naruto bowed slightly, making her blush. There is no need for you to bow, Uzumaki-sama. She sputtered. Please call me Naruto-kun. I'm not much for formalities. The vampire smiled. Say, is there a training ground where I can teach my student without disturbing anyone? He asked with a fanged smile. Yes, there is one over there. Kalila pointed to a field not far from them. Thank you. He smiled and ushered Sakura towards the training ground. Are you sure we are safe here, sensei? Sakura whispered. Please be respectful, Sakura. The Kitsune may be tricksters, but they are honorable people. I would trust them with my life. The Uzumaki clan always had a good connection to the Kitsune clan since we were the only ones able to bind Kurumi-ne, he explained as he guided her to a tree. Now you will try to form a genjutsu like I told you to. Until you got that, I will meditate. You have 1 hour till I test you. He explained calm and sat down beside her. Sakura sat down and tried to form a genjutsu like her sensei told her to. The hour passed and a vision formed before her inner eye. So you finally got it? Her sensei broke her out of her thoughts. Her eyes fluttered open and she looked at him. Yeah, I think so. She muttered, a bit tired. Then do your worst. Naruto sighed and turned to face her. Sakura nodded and concentrated on the vision in her head. She began to pump chakra into it and pushed it towards her sensei. Naruto just sat there and lowered his Yuki shield so that her chakra could influence him. His vision blackened till it vanished completely and returned in screaming pink and rainbow color. He watched calmly as an actual pink fluffy unicorn danced over a rainbow. Around it flew all kind of crazy fairies. There was actually background music, and to Naruto's dismay it was really disturbing. Okay, this girl is not one for genjutsu creation. She has no real imagination. She can learn already created ones but self-created. Nope. He deadpanned. With a push of chakra he destroyed the illusion and looked at his eager-looking student. Okay. You can learn genjutsu and make them quite realistic, but you are not one to create ones, he explained, making her slump a bit. Don't worry, Sakura. Not everyone is made for genjutsu. That's why I will teach you the basics of medicine jutsu, anatomy, chakra scalpel, and the mystic palm jutsu. I think you will have a better feeling for it. he explained, making her smile. He unsealed 9 scrolls and handed them to her. These are 2 scrolls for anatomy, 2 for basic medicine, 3 on poison, 1 on chakra scalpel and the mystic palm jutsu, he explained, and she opened the anatomy scroll. At the end of the trip you will have the basics down. After the Chunin exam I will ask Tsunade to come back to Konoha and take you as her apprentice, Naruto explained, making her drop the scroll. You know Tsunade-sama? She squealed. Of course I know her. Did you already forget what you read in the bingo book back when we met Zabuza? He scolded her. Sakura looked sheepish and rubbed the back of her head. Come on, get to it. But before that you will create a shadow clone and make it read the scroll. You have till the boss is back to read the scroll once. You on the other hand will learn taijutsu. I think I will teach you the Konoha Senpu or the Uzumaki swirling fist. I think my family style would fit you best seeing how agile you are, the vampire explained calm while he thought about it. What do you mean agile? She blushed like mad. I mean that I read your academy report and that you were always good in gymnastics. You were only second to INO in class, he explained with a slight blush as he thought about his crush. Sakura actually noticed the blush and began to piece some things together. How Naruto always went to the Yamanaka flower shop. How he always blushed in INO's presence. Could it be that you love INO? She asked, unsure. Wah, how? He jumped back, practically glowing like mad. Was it really that obvious? He caught himself again and coughed into his fist, making her giggle. Well, not really, but even I can piece 1 and 1 together with enough hints, she smiled sweetly. Now listen up. You will not tell anyone about this. You understand? He growled, making her look at him in confusion. But why not? It would be so sweet to see you 2 together. She sighed with a dreamy look on her face. Sakura, I'm a S-class ninja. I have more enemies than I can count, and you think I should openly admit that I love someone? INO would be their target to get to me. I can't and won't allow that. He explained, serious, making her pale as she realized the gravity of the whole situation. I understand. She muttered and hung her head. A hand on her shoulder made her look up though. Naruto crouched before her and smiled kindly. Come on, Sakura. Let's continue your training. He smiled and she nodded. It had been hours since Lisa had begun to prepare Naruto for the ceremony. With her small hands she braided silver beads, silver fox fangs, silver feathers, rubies and sapphires in his hair. So what do you think about becoming a kitsune, Naruto-kun? She asked with a smile. I think it would be interesting. I always felt close to Kurame, but we were never the same. I always felt the difference between us, but now I have a chance to become one her kin, he explained, calm with his eyes still closed. What will you do after the ceremony? She continued her questions. I will have to return to Konoha for now till Uzushiogakure needs me as its cage. But the Kitsune clan is always welcome in Uzu, he explained with a gentle smile. I can't make such decisions. You would have to ask the elders for that. Lisa sighed and finished her work. We are finished here, Naruto-kun. You can go now. Kenji-san will explain the rest to you. She smiled and turned to leave. Thank you, Lisa-chan. He smiled, making her blush as she left. So Kenji-san, what will happen now? The teen asked and turned his head towards the old fox who drank his tea in a corner. We will begin with the extraction ceremony tomorrow afternoon. It will take the whole night to free Kurame-sama. I must warn you, it will be painful. The old fox sighed. I can deal with pain. I have suffered enough for 2 lifetimes during my first 5 years in the leaf. The teen sighed, tired, suddenly being reminded of his torture. I'm sorry to hear that. I assume that the humans weren't pleased with you being Kurame-sama's host, he sighed, already knowing the answers. Yeah. Humans are fools, but what can you do? They will never change. They had hundreds of years and they still wage war like it's a perverse game. Naruto sighed, thinking of how narrow-minded his former kind was. Come on. Let's not talk about these unpleasant things. Here, have a drink. The man smiled and passed him a small bottle. I usually don't drink, but I think I will make an exception. The vampire sighed and opened the bottle. I usually don't drink, but I think I will make an exception. The vampire sighed and opened the bottle. Enjoy the drink, O Tudo. You have earned it. Kurame thought and turned back to one of her books from the library in Naruto's mind. Sakura lay on the ground all sprawled and panting. Naruto had started her taijutsu training in his family's style, seeing as it fit her better than the Konoha Senpu. Come on Sakura, I know you have more stamina than that, the clone of her master encouraged her. Please, sensei, let me take a short break, she panted weakly. Okay Sai, you can rest for 10 minutes. I want to talk to our spectator anyway. He sighed, making her follow his look, and saw a young kitsune kid watching them from the distance. You can come over here. We won't hurt you, Naruto called with a gentle smile, not showing his fangs as he crouched down to be on eye level with the child. The kid looked unsure but slowly walked over to the two visitors. When he finally reached them, he mustered them closely. Now Sakura could also look at the kid closely from her position. He was a kid about 6 to 7 years with blonde hair, sun-kissed blonde hair, and two tails waving behind him, a bit hesitant. He wore a simple dark orange kimono with no shoes, showing of his clawed feet. What can we help you with, little one? The vampire asked in a soft voice that Sakura would think a child caretaker would have. I wanted to, the kitsune stuttered before he seemed to collect himself. I wanted to ask if you really were a vamp, he began confident, but it faded at the end. You want to know if I'm a vampire? Naruto formed the question for him, making him nod in silence. Yes, I'm a vampire, but don't worry, I'm not like my ancestors, or the Shinigami wouldn't have turned me into one, he assured the kid while showing a small fanged grin. The kid only grinned and ran away towards the village. Sakura looked after him with a confused look before she heard her sensei chuckle. Nice kid. Bet his friends challenged him to ask me that. He chuckled. But why did he seem to be so afraid? Sakura questioned, confused. Well, you see, there were more of my kind till some time ago. They were mindless beasts, and let's just say that they destroyed more than one village in their blood rage. The teen sighed, not liking to think of his former people's mistakes. What happened to them? If they were just partially as strong as you, then what could have killed them? The girl asked, not seeing her sensei's obvious pain to the question. I killed them all. He sighed and sat down beside her. What? She sat up and looked at him, confused. Why would you do that? She continued. They were monsters, Sakura. They needed to be stopped, or they would have returned to their former glory and overrun humanity. Since Motoko isn't allowed to interfere in the human realm too much, she couldn't do it herself. That's why she searched for someone with a pure soul, someone she could entrust with these enormous powers, and then she found me. So I picked up my duty and destroyed the remains of my kind before they got strong again, the vampire explained with a steeled look in his eyes. How did their numbers reduce so much if they were so powerful? The pink-haired girl asked, confused. The people of Uzu were ninja, but they were mainly vampire hunters. But because of a betrayal inside the leaf, they were left to die, and so it was destroyed in the last ninja war. He sighed, not liking why his former people died. What do you mean betrayal? She asked, confused how her home village could leave an allied village to fend for themselves. There was a conspiracy inside the council during that time. You may have learned about Danzo Shimura in the academy. He betrayed the leaf and left Uzu to perish by stopping the request for help reach the Hokage. The vampire sighed and stood up. Wasn't he a member of the Sandaime Hokage's team? Sakura was confused. Yes, he wasn't a power-hungry fool at that. The man growled, and she knew to drop the topic. So how far did you two get while I was gone? Another Naruto walked up to the two. The clone simply puffed away, and the original looked through his memories. Sakura looked at her sensei in awe. He looked a bit different from before. His hairstyle had changed into something that looked more like INO's style. His spiky red hair hung before his right eye, while the rest was tied into a low ponytail. He had silver ornaments webbed into his hair. Some silver fox fangs along with equally silver feathers and carved silver pins. In between them were polished rubies, yellow jade, aquamarine, red corals, and tiger eyes weaved into the wisps of hair. Think Jack Sparrow, just with silver and gems. His eyes held a strong but gentle glow, giving his shadowed right eye a more mysterious feeling. He also wore a different attire. Gone was his black leather clothes, and they were replaced with a simple black hakama and sandals. The fox fangs were still bound to his back. His aura gave a sense of actual peace, not the usually cold, calculative calmness. So you started your taijutsu training in my family's style and medical knowledge. That's good to know. So how do you feel of continuing your training? he asked calm. Not really, sensei. I thought that maybe I could concentrate more on medical training today. My muscles are killing me, she asked, finding it a bit more easy to be around him now. Okay, do that. While you learn from the scrolls, one will look around if I can find some herbs for my poisons. I'm running pretty low on them right now, he explained calm before he turned to leave. I'll be back in 2 hours. You have your provisions if you get hungry. We will be staying at Lisa-chan's place tonight, he explained before he vanished in a shunshin. Sakura only looked at the place where her sensei just stood before she shook her head, dispelled her own clone only to clutch her head in pain. She still wasn't used to the sudden influx of informations from the technique, and when she used it to learn it was even worse. After the pain finally dulled, she stumbled to the tree where her clone had sat and picked up the scroll again to test her knowledge on the just learned stuff. She was smart, that went without a question, but she worked hard for what she knew. Sakura was a born theorist, but she had problems to use the learned in practice. Naruto walked around the border of the village and looked at the plants growing there. He had unsealed a basket from a seal on his lower left arm, under his left arm. Carefully he plucked out a plant here and there and put it in his basket. After an hour or so he finally had filled his basket to the top. He then unsealed a mortar and pestle along with some of his own herbs and small bottles filled with liquids. They were round and 5 inches in diameter, like a ball with a flat side to place them down. Along with the bottles he unsealed a black leather belt with metal test tubes put into the belt. The tubes were about 1 inch thick and 5 inches long. The final was a gas cooker along with a few pots. The vampire placed everything before himself and sorted the herbs and began to pound them into a dark green paste. He began to add a herb here and there along with some of the liquids from the bottles, and the paste turned blood red. Then he filled the paste into a pot and put it on the cooker. Carefully he began to stir the paste with a senbon needle till it began to liquefy. Before it completely liquefied, he added a shot of a clear liquid and stirred it before he pulled a tube from th belt and opened it. With a calm hand he poured the liquid into the tube and leaned it against the mortar to cool down. Crying fire complete, he muttered as he sniffed the poison. You are quite skilled, aren't you, Naruto-kun? A female voice asked behind him. Well, yes, Kalila-san. I learned from the best poison maker in the elemental nations. He was a great man and a great medic after his days of bloodshed. He taught me everything he knew before he died of old age. The teen sighed, making the woman look at him sadly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, she began to, only for her to interrupt her. Don't worry about it. He had a long, great life. Now he's resting in peace, the Jonin explained calm, giving her a soft smile. Kalila only nodded, not wanting to press the matter before she remembered something. I heard you will be staying at Lisa-chan's house tonight, is that right? She asked with a smile. Yes. She offered me and my student her place for the night. He nodded and began to clean his tools and put the now closed tube back in the belt. Well then, I will be seeing you later. She grinned and walked off without awaiting his answer. So that's what you meant earlier. The Jonin grinned as he looked at the woman before him. Naruto had carried a exhausted Sakura to Lisa's house and was greeted by the smiling face of Kalila. You know my Ka-san, Naruto-kun? Lisa asked, confused. We talked after you were finished with me. He teased the young fox girl only to make her blush like mad. Kalila saw where he was going with this and picked up on it. Hey, no fair, Lisa-chan. I wanted to claim him. She whined, making her daughter blush even more. If you really want to, we could have a threesome. The vampire continued, only for the poor Kitsune girl to faint and fall to the ground with a massive blush. That was enough to make the mother and the Jonin to laugh. The vibrations of his body made Sakura stir on his back, remembering him that he was still carrying her. Say, could you tell me where I can put my student, please? She exhausted herself mentally and needs rest, he asked calm. Of course. Follow me. The woman guided him to a room where he put the pink-haired girl on a bed, but not before picking up her daughter and placing her in the other bed. She immediately snuggled into the comfy feeling of the mattress and the two left. In the living room, both sat down and shared a laugh. Lisa-chan's face was priceless. Naruto laughed. You're right there. Kalila laughed. So how do you like the ornaments? She changed the topic. They are really beautiful. He smiled and let his fingers glide through the ornaments. This new hairstyle also gives you a more mysterious feeling. She giggled and pushed a wisps of hair behind her ear. Thank you. I thought it was time for a change. He smiled and looked at the ceiling. So, can you tell me a bit more about yourself? The woman asked with a slight stutter. What's there to know? The day I was born, Kurumi ne was sealed into me. My parents died and the village wanted my death every minute of my life. Then the Uchiha took me until my godfather came around and took me away for training. During that I killed the last remaining vampires in the elemental nations. I returned to the leaf and then I came to find your people. He shrugged casually. Kalila looked at him in disbelief. How can he act so casually about people wanting to end his life all the time? She thought, shocked. How can you be so calm about it? She asked in a silent scream. I have long since given up on Konoha learning from their mistakes, but they are indoctrination resistant. He shrugged, calm, not looking at her. Come on, we should go to bed. Tomorrow is a long day. He sighed and leaned back. Is that an offer? Kalila teased, making him grin. Sorry, but I already have someone I love and my cousin is also after my ass. He grinned at her gobsmacked expression. I know that Lisa-chan has a crush on me, and despite me not liking it, I'm still a Konoha nin and an heir to 2 clans. That means that the CRA will be applied on me. He explained with a tired sigh. The what? The woman asked, confused. The Clan Restoration Act. It means that I have to marry multiple women to ensure my clan's survival. But maybe I can bypass it by leaving the village and finally become the Uzukage. Though I will miss my friends in Konoha. He stated, serious. Kalila knew that it would be best to listen to his advice and get some rest because she wouldn't get any more answers tonight. She excused herself and Naruto laid down on the couch, immediately drifted off. Naruto sat on a flat stone with his eyes closed for hours. Surrounding him in a circle sat 18 kitsune chanting a melodic prayer. AN. Final Fantasy X, Hymn of the Faith Bahamut. The remainders of his seal and the markings Lisa had applied to him resonated with a blue glow to their chants. The nature energy around him began to gather and spin around him lazy till it became visible to the normal eyes. Inside the seal he heard Kurumi humming the same tune as her clan members as she too became surrounded by nature energy that she drew from her little brother. Sakura watched from outside the circle along with most members of the Kitsune clan. She was in awe how they made nature energy visible to the naked eye and how the markings on her sensei's body resonated to the chanting. You ready for this, Ne-chan? He thought, calm though he readied himself for the pain that would come with the extraction of her essence and the change into a Kitsune demon. As ready as I can be for hurting my Otudo, she mumbled, sad. Don't worry about me, Ne-chan. I don't think this will be worse than anything the village ever did to me. He tried to soothe her but only got a nod and a weak smile. Kurumi suddenly felt a pulling sensation. At first the feeling was weak and only made her hair move, but it soon got stronger and she began to slide towards the feeling. Naruto began to howl in pain as he fell backwards and arched his back. His mouth wide open, his fangs growing devilish long and his eyes glowed pure white. The color of the markings on his body changed from the soft blue to angry red as Kurumi's very essence began to seep out of him. The red energy began to collect itself in a red glowing ball before him. The nature energy surrounding him seeped into the red ball and it began to form a human-like body. The form solidified into a tall woman with back long red hair, a perfect hourglass figure, perfect long legs and at least DD braias. She wore a cream-colored kimono with a Sarawak blossom pattern. Finally 9 orange fox tails and ears materialized on her body. The woman collapsed on the ground weak from the extraction. Naruto howls of pain continued as his appearance began to change. Black fox ears with red tips began to grow on top of his head while his human ears disappeared. 4 equally colored tails sprouted from his tailbone. His nails turned to claws and his eyes became sharper before he fainted. The chanting turned silent as everyone looked at the unmoving body of Naruto. Kurumi panted in exhaustion but she crawled to her surrogate brother to check on him. Lisa and Kalila ran to their clan leader to help her while Sakura ran to her sensei. She fell to her knees beside him and shrieked in horror. Everyone looked at her as she began to shake the seemingly unconsciousness Jonin. Come on sensei, you can't just leave me alone here. Breath for Kami's sake. she yelled, making everyone go wide-eyed. Nah, Naruto. Naruto, Kurumi whispered before she yelled as the horror of truth caught up to her. She freed herself from the grip of the Kitsune girls and stumbled forward in order to reach her beloved Otudo. Not even a muscle twitch came from him as she fell to her knees beside him and grabbed a hold of his hand. Everyone watched in silence and stayed where they were. The red-haired vampire drifted in an ocean of clear blue water with the sun burning from above him. He didn't know where he was or who he was for that matter. He was simply there without any purpose but existing. His blue eyes looked up at the clear sky hoping it would answer him his unasked questions. The tails growing from his back moved lazy through the water keeping him afloat with ease. Where am I? He whispered confused. In a place you should be for a long time, Naruto-chan, a female voice stated sorrowful. He turned his head to the voice and saw a beautiful pale woman with silver hair standing on the water beside him. Her eyes showed a pain he couldn't understand. Naruto, is that my name? He questioned her calm. You don't remember me, don't you? She answered with her own question. I feel like I should know that I definitely know you from somewhere. But my memories are all so foggy. I can't make out any details. He explained as he actually sat up, forgetting the water around him. My name is Motoko. I am the Shinigami, and yes, we know each other quite well. I raised you along with Kurumi-chan. She explained with audible pain in her voice as she knelt beside him. I'm sorry that I caused you so much pain, Motoko-san. He excused himself. No, it's all right, Naru-chan. She mumbled with a small sob. Before she knew what happened, he hugged her. She stiffened in surprise but relaxed just as fast and returned the embrace. Motoko gave him a soft peck on the cheek and he blushed a bit. Suddenly his mind began to clear and the fog above his memories began to lift. He pulled her closer as he finally remembered who he was. Thank you, Motoko-ne. He whispered in her ear, making her gasp. She pushed him back to look into his face and saw his usual calm and confident look. Naruto. She squealed happy and hugged him again. Hey, calm down, Motoko-ne, no need to push the stuffing out of me. He joked as she hugged him for dear life. You idiot. She yelled, not letting go of him. Hey, it's not my fault that I'm here. Wherever here is. He stated with a chuckle as he looked around the ocean. You are in the Ishikete no Umi. Sea of Decision. Google Translate. Here the great heroes of their times get to make a decision of their own if their time was not over yet. She explained and let him go. What kind of decision? The vampire asked, confused. The decision to live or to die. She smiled as she saw the understanding on his face. So I can just go back and continue living till my time is over? He asked with a happy smile. Yes, that's the reason this place exists for. She giggled. But say, shouldn't I have survived the extraction of Kurumi's extraction? I mean, I'm a vampire after all. He changed the topic with a frown. Yes, you should have, but you made the mistake to not drink any blood before the ceremony to be at your full strength because you wanted to be polite to your hosts. This caused your soul to drift here. She growled and slapped him on the back of his head. I'm sorry, Motoko-ne. He hung his head with a slight cloud of depression above his head. You better be. She scolded him serious before she gave him another hit on the head. Now get going, Otudo. The others are about to cremate your body because they believe you dead. She gave him a push and he vanished with a panicked expression on his face. Naruto tried to adjust his senses to get a grasp of his situation. Many people around him with sorrowful auras, himself laying on top wood structure with fire under him. His eyes snapped open, feeling the incredible heat coming from under him. Oh, fuck me sideways, he thought as he realized that he was wrapped up in white cloth. With a massive burst of Yuki he broke through his shroud. But the Yuki spike also enlarged the fire to embrace him in its burning rage. With a fluid motion he guided the flames around him, making them dance towards the sky without harming him. The Kitsune clan and Sakura looked in pure shock as his outline stood strong against the flames before it burst away in sparks. Everyone gaped at him as his tail swung behind him in confident waves. He jumped to the ground and cracked his stiff neck. This made everyone snap out of their thoughts and assume a fighting stance except from Sakura, Kurumi, Kalila, Lisa and Kenji. Oh come on. I was just dead for a few hours. Cut me some slack, will ya? The vampire Kitsune huffed. The women ran up to without another word and gave him a bone-crushing hug, throwing him to the ground. Naruto. They squealed giddy. Hey, calm down. It's not like I was gone for long. He struggled against their grip. You were gone for 2 days, Na-chan. Kurumi sobbed into his chest. I was what? He asked, baffled. I will have to talk to Motoko-ne about that. He scowled, a bit pissed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stay away for so long. He soothed them while the others relaxed their stances. It seems that Shinigami-sama has really taken a liking to you, me boy, Kenji stated as he walked up to the teen. Of course she likes him. She raised him after all. A squeaky voice laughed from under Naruto's hakama top. Everyone looked at the vampire in surprise, who himself was feeling something move under his clothes. A few seconds later, a small fox head emerged from his top. The fox looked around before it crawled out of his clothes and sat on his chest. It had yellow fur with a white belly, feet and tail tip. Its pink eyes showed a strong sense of self-confidence, and judging from the voice earlier, it seemed to be female. What are ya all looking at? It huffed. Yep, definitely a girl. And a moody one at that. Naruto and Kurumi thought with a rose eyebrow. So cute. The other three thought with a smile. And who might you be? Kenji asked, calm as he looked at the fox. I'm Kaki, and the Motoko-sama send me to watch over this idiot here. She puffed her chest in pride. You and watch me. Now I really need to talk to Motoko-ne. What is she thinking? He mumbled to himself, only for Kaki to bite his finger. You do realize that something like that can't really hurt me, don't you? He smiled at the angry fox kid. Kaki looked him in the eyes and actually let go of his finger before she licked the bite wound with a sorrowful look on her face. Come on now, no need to look so down, Kaki-chan. I have been through too much to be resentful about something like this. He smiled and patted her head, making her actually purr, much to her own embarrassment. Hey girls, how about you get off me now so I can finally get off my back? It hurts to lay on my tails. He smiled at the women that were still hugging him. They gave him a sheepish smile and let go of him so he could sit up. His tails stretched easily behind him as he stood up. Kaki followed his movement and ended up sitting on top of his head. You know, I could really use something to eat. He gave everyone a fanged smile. Can you only think about eating? Kaki huffed, a bit annoyed. Oh come on, cut me some slack. I haven't eaten since before we came to the village. He growled back as his eyes flashed white for a second. But that's 4 days. Why didn't you eat anything before the ritual? Lisa asked, confused. Well, I consume blood and I didn't want to ruin your appetite because of your sharp senses would surely be bothered by the smell of blood, the vampire explained with a small smile. Lisa and Kayla nodded dumbly, not thinking that he would be so considerate. Was. Kurumi only shook her head at her former host. Sakura was just happy to have her sensei back. She didn't know what INO would have done if she heard that he died. The girl had pieced her friend's usual reactions to the vampire together just like she had her sensei's, and it made her smile. Kenji only shook his head in amusement before he turned serious. Kaki just made herself comfortable on top of his head and began to doze off. We have something to talk about, my boy. He stated, serious, gaining the vampire's full attention before he turned to leave. Understood. Naruto nodded and followed the old fox. The girls stayed behind, knowing it wasn't their place to follow except for Kurumi. She walked alongside her former container. Since she was the clan head, she had the right and the obligation to come along. As the three vanished in Kenji's hut, everyone began to disperse and go back to their everyday life. It was close to 3 months since the Jonin and his temporary student had left Konoha. Right now the two, along with a team from Uzu and the temporary Uzukage, were on their way to the Hidden Leaf. Naruto was a bit depressed that Kurumi had to stay behind since she was the clan head of the Kitsune clan. They had moved to the forest part of Uzushiogakure. The forest around Uzu was enormous, not as big as the one around Konoha but big enough. The Uzumaki clan even enlarged the island with their seals. After the clan had moved to Uzu, they had given him the clan tattoo consisting of 9 red crescent-formed tails surrounding a screaming red fox head, making him an honorary member of the clan. Another new tattoo was added to his back. It showed Kurumi in her kitsune form sleeping under a cherry tree. The black tree went up his whole left side from waist to shoulder, letting pink cherry blossoms snow down his back. Kurumi rested on his mid-back with her head resting on her front paws. On his right shoulder blade was a small text in an unreadable language. The Kitsune language. The text stated his honor and loyalty to the Kitsune clan. I pledge my name and body to the clan. We have seen the darkest and the brightest sides of the world. The world we guard is in constant change and new evil will be born everywhere. Yet in the darkness we found a beauty that we won't share for anything in the world. The dreams of the cherry blossoms will keep us going no matter how hard we are hit or how less our numbers are. The Kitsune clan stands strong and protect the light. The pledge was something Kurumi had thought of long ago but never brought it to the clan. Now everyone wore the same pledge on their bodies. I feel so empty without Kurumi ne. Naruto muttered, letting his tails drop behind him. Stop your whining, Na-chan. Tayuya hit him on the back of his head. Oh, leave me be, Ta-chan. You don't know how it feels when something that has been with you since birth is ripped out of you. Kurumi was part of me just like my vampire powers are a part of me. He growled back, hitting her with one of his tails on the head. The genin team behind them just watched how their leaders bickered like children. Though the one female member of the team was having a hard time letting her leader's tails out of her sight. She was slowly losing the fight against her inner girl. An audible snap was heard as her reason finally broke. Kawaii! She yelled and grabbed onto Naruto's tails with a full body hug. The teen stopped in mid-step, feeling the pressure on two of his tails. He turned his head to look behind himself and gave the genin a curious look. Can I help you, Mashiki-chan? He asked, amused watching her snuggle with his tails. The girl gained an atomic blush and jumped off her cage and scurried behind her Jonin-sensei. Everyone stared at the girl before they burst out laughing. Mashiki seemed to sink deeper and deeper in her clothes to hide herself. Come on now. We are nearly there. I can see the gate already. Sakura giggled. Then I better henge myself. We don't want to give the villagers more ammunition than needed. The vampire Kitsune sighed. Kitsune release. True mirage, he muttered and formed a ram seal. In a flash of blue fire, the old Naruto was back. Without a word, Tayuya jumped onto his back and hugged the stuffing out of him. Ta-chan, please get off me. It's unfitting for a cage to behave like that. Naruto commented without losing his footing. Tayuya only pouted, gaining a snicker from the others, but jumped off. The group walked up to the gate to be greeted by Katetsu and Izumo. Hey there, Naruto. Who are these people with you? Katetsu asked, bored. Well, Sakura, my genin. Tayuya the Uzukage and her genin team from Uzushiogakure. The vampire stated with a fanged grin. The Uzu cage. But Uzushiogakure was destroyed in the last war. Izumo stuttered, shocked. Sup? Tayuya gave a lazy wave only to be smacked on the back of her head. Stop it, Tayuya. I have told you before that you should behave like a cage, not like a simple shinobi. Naruto growled. The gatekeepers watched in awe and shock how the Jonin treated the cage of a dead believed village. Now come on. The Hokage is waiting for us. I can feel you watching us, old man. Naruto stated and looked upwards at the last part. The people gave him a look as if he was crazy but shrugged it off. With that, the newcomers walked toward the Hokage tower. While Naruto pondered on when he should give INO her present, Sakura thought about how strong she had gotten. During her training, she had upped her weights to 200 kilos each limb. Her genjutsu, medjutsu, taijutsu and ninjutsu repertoire had grown rather nice. The members of Uzushiogakure looked around in interest, but they also noticed the disgusted looks their cage got. Don't let it bother you. They are not worth it. He stated calm and continued his walk in silence. Naruto. A voice called, making him stop with a soft smile on his face. A smile that didn't sit well with Tayuya. A blonde girl in a purple getup ran up to him. Hey there, Ino-chan. The teen greeted her with a big smile. So how was training? She asked, eager to learn something from him. Well, Sakura might give you a run for your money, but from what I see, I would say that Asuma upped your training like I told him to. Naruto grinned, making her blush. I know, and I will beat Sakura with no problem. Ino cheered, gaining a scowl from said girl. In your dreams, Ino, she shouted, making Naruto groan at her volume. Please refrain for yelling around me, Sakura-san. The vampire sighed and rubbed his ear. Sorry, sensei. The girl pouted and stepped aside. Ino only rose an eyebrow how Sakura stepped down like that but shrugged it off as Naruto taming her during the trip. Naruto pulled a package from the inside of his leather jacket and handed it to the blonde girl. A small gift from my hometown. He smiled and she unwrapped the package. Inside was a set 6-pointed shuriken with crescent-formed blades and a set of special Senbon needles. Thank you, Naruto. She smiled and gave him a hug. The teen returned the hug with pleasure but ended it sooner than both wanted to. He pushed her away gently and gave her a gentle smile. I'm sorry, Ino, but I have to bring the Uzukage and her team to the old man so they can register themselves for the Chunin exam. He sighed and released the hug despite what his heart wanted him to do. Ino only nodded dumbfounded. She also knew that Uzushiogakure was destroyed, but she shrugged it off as one of the many wonders of Naruto Uzumaki. See you later then, Naruto-kun. Ino waved as the group walked away. It's good to see you again to Yuya-chan. Sarutobi smiled at the young woman before him. It's been a while, old man. She waved with a cheeky smile. Naruto is really a bad influence on you. He sighed and rubbed his temple. The two Uzumaki grinned at him. Well, let's get serious for once. Naruto sighed and waved the Genin team and their sensei to his side. This is Team Sakumo. Sakumo Hirano is one of our best Jonin in Uzushiogakure and AS class shinobi. His team consists of Seiki Tobamaru, Mashiki Ayuna and Uzumaki Mikado. They graduated about a year ago and were specially selected for this exam to represent the strength of the rebuild Uzushiogakure. Naruto introduced the team, making them bow when they were introduced. Well then, welcome to Konoha. I guess you will stay in the Golden Leaf Hotel. The Hokage nodded at the group. No, we will stay at Na-chan's place. Tayuya pouted and grabbed his arm, pressing it against her chest. I have no problem housing the Uzukage and her team in my compound for the time of the Chunin exam, the vampire stated, firm, not bothered by her behavior. I see that Sakura has really flourished under your care. Sarutobi smiled, making the Genin blush in embarrassment. Yes, she has come a long way. Her abilities are now equal to that of a mid-Chunin, but I would suggest her to take an apprenticeship under Tsunade. I've rarely seen anyone with such raw talent for Medjutsu like she has. The Jonin explained, calm, putting a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, sensei. She bowed slightly. That's good to hear. From today on, Team 7 is reinstated. You should go and meet up with Kakashi and Sasuke. They are at Training Ground 7. The Hokage explained. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Sakura bowed and left the office. So how did it go with the ritual? The Hokage changed the topic once again. Kurumi-ne is free and moved on to the next world. The Kitsune explained, not wanting anyone to know the truth about her whereabouts outside of Uzushiogakure. That's sad to hear. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen sighed and lit his pipe. Don't worry about it. She is in a better place. The teen sighed. The Uzu group only watched in silence. They knew that Naruto didn't trust anyone with Kurumi's whereabouts. Did anything else happen during your journey? The old man asked, a bit eager to hear more about his surrogate grandson. Well, Naruto sighed and looked at his comrades. Don't worry, Naruto. I've put up a silencing barrier around the office and the Anbu here are my most trusted guards. Nothing will leave this office. The man assured his Jonin. With a sigh, the teen let the illusion around him drop, revealing his new fox features. Sarutobi only whistled and took a deep breath from his pipe. Looks good on you, kiddo. He grinned, releasing the smoke from his lungs. Don't even start, old man. Naruto sighed and scratched his itching ear. So how did it come to that? The Hokage continued. With the extraction of Kurumi-ne, I was turned into a Kitsune demon. So right now I'm a Kitsune vampire. The vampire explained, letting his tails wave behind him. Just like he anticipated, Mashiki clamped his tail again, making everyone laugh. The Anbu hiding in the shadows fell out of their hiding places and laughed. Neko even struggled with herself not to hug the Kitsune vampire. Would you please release my tail, Mashiki-chan? He asked, calm, making his ears twitch. That was it, and Neko also jumped him with a squeal. Not to be outmatched by the two, Tayuya also jumped in and snuggled against him. While the girls hugging the stuffing out of their blood-drinking pillow, the males laughed their asses off at Naruto's unnerved expression. The Uzu group made their way to the Namikaze compound, once again seeing the glares their real cage was getting, and growled at the civilians they passed. Naruto noticed how tensed his people were inside. He knew thing would get itchy soon if the civilians didn't let up on their hatred. Mikado, like all Uzumaki, had a strong urge to protect his family members from everyone that threatened them. Ayuna was in the same boat because she idolized the vampire Kitsune, and Tobamaru simply itched for a reason to use his explosive tags. Tayuya openly growled at everyone, showing them who he belonged to, not that he cared, and Hirano didn't care at all since Naruto told them to ignore it. The compound doors opened themselves as the group came closer on for something unexpected to happen. An egg flew through the air and missed Naruto by miles. Instead it hit Tayuya, who was now boiling with anger. "Who the fuck dares to throw a egg at me? Who is the fucker with a death wish," she screamed, and her hair moved under her cage hat like it had a life of its own. An elderly man began to shrink back into himself as the other people pointed at him because of the fear they were experiencing in front of a cage's key. "You little shit are dead," the reed head yelled and jumped at him with a kunai in each hand. A sudden hand on the back of her collar made her stop in mid-air and hang there like a limp sack of potatoes. It took the girl a moment to realize what happened before she struggled against the death grip on her collar. "Let me go, Naruto. This fucker will pay for throwing stuff at me. I will make him bleed for that," she yelled and kicked and hit around herself in blind rage, but to no avail. "I'll let you down once you have cooled down, Uzukage-sama. It would not be very diplomatic if you maimed or killed a villager of your hosting village," the vampire explained coolly. "No, he will suffer," she yelled, making the civilians shiver in fear as she released some of her ki. Naruto simply ignored her and carried her through the gate, and it slammed shut behind the group. The people only stared at the closed gate in shock, awe and disgust. The teen most them hated had saved them from the fury of a cage with ease. They didn't really know what to think about this sudden development. "Guess the boy is more than he seems to be on the outside." A shinobi laughed with his friends and continued to drink their sake. Naruto simply dropped his cousin on her as he walked into the living room and continued towards the kitchen. In that moment the girl saw her chance to slip out and kick some civilians, but a sudden pressure on her head made her stop. "You won't be going anywhere or I'll tell Naruto-sama," a voice squeaked from the top of her head. "But Kaki-chan," Tayuya whined like a little child. The others simply ignored her behavior and placed themselves all around the living room. Hirano placed himself near the window to enjoy a calming cigarette. Tobamaru walked over to a shelf and found himself something to read before he sat on the floor and leaned against the shelf. Mikado took it upon himself to help his clan head in the kitchen while Ayuna looked at the little fox with sparkling eyes. It took Naruto and Mikado a few minutes, but they returned with 6 cups of steaming tea. They placed them by each person before they themselves took a seat. Kaki only looked at the men she was supposed to supervise and leapt from Tayuya's head into his lap and rolled herself together to rest. "So will you still go after the civilians, Ta-chan?" the vampire asked as he looked at her over the edge of his cup. The girl looked up to his narrowed eyes and shivered. She knew that Naruto wouldn't allow her to harm a villager no matter how much they deserved it, and if she did he would rip her a new one. She wanted him to rip her something, but not like that. "No." She sighed in defeat. "Good. Now on to business," the vampire stated, stern, gaining their attention. "As you all know, Orochimaru plans to attack Konoha during the final part of the Chunin exam. Most likely will he be after the old man Hokage to finally get his revenge," Naruto explained as he sipped his tea. "So what are we gonna do about it?" Tsukumo asked after he took a drag of his cigarette. "You will protect Tayuya with your life if you have to. She may only be the Uzukage for now, but she is still your cage." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the Jonin. Tsukumo only nodded, knowing not to mess with his real cage. He had done it once and got his handed to him without much of a fight. Naruto's abilities were devastating. "Tobamaru, Ayuna and Mikado will follow the orders of the superiors they are under at the time, but make sure you are not captured by any village. Konoha might try to kidnap you for breeding reasons or information gathering purposes. As might the others. That's why you all will wear emergency seals to inform me of your status at all times." "Understood," Naruto explained and passed each genin a seal tag that they were to apply to a place not visible from outside. "Hi." They nodded. "And you, Tayuya, will help the old man as good as you can. But be careful, we don't know what he is capable of. That's why I'll give you one of the Hiroshin kunai. Use it the moment you realize that you can't win. He explained and passed his cousin a three-pronged kunai. Yuya nodded and put it in her robe. Now let's make lunch and prepare you three for tomorrow. The unofficial Kage smiled. Kaki whined not being able to rest on her charge anymore and jumped to Ayuna to get petted by her. Naruto only grinned and went to the kitchen. The other only smiled at their host and returned to what they were doing. Ayuna offered the little fox a sip from her tea and Kaki accepted it grateful. The little fox enjoyed drink and purred as she rolled herself up again and took a little nap. Half an hour later they all sat around the table and enjoyed a simple lunch. While the others enjoyed their sushi, Naruto was reduced to his liquid lunch. So what's the first exam, Onisama? Mikado asked respectful. Well, the first test will be a written test. More I won't tell you or there would be no meaning to the test. Naruto shrugged and took a sip of blood. No one was bothered by his special needs and continued their lunch till Ayuna looked up from her lap where she was secretly feeding Kaki. Will you also be a proctor in the exam, Naruto-sama? She asked as everyone looked at the vampire Jonin. Yes. I'll be the proctor of the second part along with our snake mistress Mitarashi Anko. Naruto nodded and took another sip. Is she cool? Tobamaru asked with a grin. She's a good friend of mine because she took care of me before I left the village back then. She along with the Uchiha were my family. The teen explained and tried to get the tension out of his back. Excuse me for a second. I need to release my henge. My back is killing me with my tails all cramped up. The vampire excused himself and walked out of the room. In a puff of smoke his fox appendages appeared and he stretched his tails out. With a groan he enjoyed the release of the tension in his body. He walked back in the kitchen and sat down with a gentle smile. Okay, you three, after lunch we will give you a short training session and then you have the rest of the day off. He explained and emptied his glass. What do you have in mind, Naruto-sama? Hirano asked a bit confused. I think we should test their ability to sense their surrounding. The teen explained with a grin. A grin both Yuya and Hirano caught up on. They also smiled and nodded. That's a good idea. A shinobi should always be sure of its surrounding. Yuya nodded in a sage-like tone only to get deadpan looks from everyone. Says the woman who nearly jumped out of her skin when a genin team came to ask for a mission. Mikado snickered at her. Yuya blushed red like her hair and looked at her lap. Everyone laughed, making her feel even more embarrassed. Come now, Ta-chan. I'm sure you were just busy with all the paperwork at the time. Naruto soothed her blush. Well, eat up, team. You have a training session to complete before you can fool around for the day. Hirano clapped his hands to get their attention. That reminds me, Naruto mumbled and grabbed in his jacket. He pulled 3 black seal tags with a red seal out and placed them on the table. These are very special emergency combat seals called the Blood Fang seal. You may have heard of them before. He explained and got 3 very wary nods from the genin. They heard about that seal back in the academy. It was what Yuya used to drive off an invading force of Kiri. Yagura had sent them because he feared the rumors about the new Uzu. This one seal made Yuya in a war machine. Though due to the side effects she was out like a light for 2 weeks. After that Naruto had forbidden the use of the seal unless it was a life and death situation. Each one of you 3 will get one. Since we know that Orochimaru will attack Konoha during the last part of the exam, he will most likely be already place his pawns during the first rounds. Should either of you encounter him, you will use the seal and get your team to safety and call for help from the proctor or Anbu watching the exam. Do you understand? The vampire asked serious and they nodded, knowing how dangerous the Sannin was. Good. You'll place the tag over your heart. The moment you place it there, the seal will crawl on your skin. Once applied, it will hold for 7 days before it fades away on its own. Should you activate it, you will have a set amount of time to use it depending on the strength of the seal. These seals will stay active for the maximum amount of 20 hours. Though you can deactivate it to save the power for a later time, you'll still feel the side effects. Never forget that. You'll place the seals on yourself the tomorrow before the exam begins. Naruto explained serious and they put the seals in their pockets. So let's go training. Hirano said and moved to the training field in the back of the house. The genin nodded and followed him. Naruto stared at his clawed hand with a worried look. Yuya watched him in worry. She knew what he was thinking about. Don't worry, Na-chan. I'm sure everything will work out just fine. She gave him a gentle smile and patted his hand. I can only hope so. He sighed and gave her a peck on the cheek before he stood up and left the room. Tayuya only sat there stunned with a bright red blush. Naruto stepped out of the shadow of a building, his henge back in place and walked towards the flower shop on the other side of the street. There before it stood Ino looking through the assortment of flowers to see if there were any wilted ones she had to dispose of. Hey Ino-chan. He greeted the blonde. Ino turned towards the voice and smiled. She out down the bag of withered flowers and hugged him. Hey Naruto-kun. She gave him a sweet smile. So you ready for the exam? He asked as he broke the hug. Of course. My team and I will kick massive ass. Though I don't think we can win against Sasuke and Sakura. She cheered at first before she sighed and looked away. Why do you say that? He asked as he put a finger under her chin and made her look at him. Well, I saw some of the progress Sasuke made in the 3 months and Sakura was trained by you. It's hardly fair. She sighed a bit depressed. Don't worry about it. If Asuma did even half of the training schedule one gave him, then you might give Sakura a run for her money. I don't know about Sasuke, but I'm sure you'll do just fine. Sakura's real training will start after the Chunin exam, he explained. What do you mean her real training? Ino asked surprised. Well, Sakura has amazing but raw potential for medic jutsu. That's why I'll ask Senju Tsunade to come back to the village after the exam. He explained calm but also thought how he could help Ino to get stronger. But that's unfair. Why is Sakura being trained by a Sannin? Ino whined and stomped her foot on the floor. Don't worry. Once you make Chunin, you'll do more missions with me and I'll teach you a few things to keep up with her. He grinned and stroked her cheek with his thumb. Ino blushed like mad at his touch. It felt so hot that she feared that she would catch fire any second. Naruto picked another blood fang seal from his inner pocket and put it in her hand. She looked at the seal and then at him in confusion. This is a blood fang seal. Its use is limited to life and death situations only. I'm giving you this in case your team runs into some serious trouble, he explained as she put it in her pocket. What does it do? She asked confused. For the amount of 20 hours it enables you to use some of my vampire powers like my enhanced senses and physique. But be warned, should you use the seal for too long you'll fall into a coma for a certain amount of time. That's why I've decreased the seal's effective time of action to minimize the side effects of the seal. Naruto explained with a worried look, knowing what the seal could do to a human body. Ino looked at him stunned for a moment. Such a seal could give her team the needed advantage, but she knew that if Naruto said that it was dangerous, then it was just that. And, how do I use it? She asked a bit timid, not knowing if the seal was such a good idea to use now. You'll place the tag over your heart and the seal will crawl on your skin. Once placed, it will stay there for 7 days before it vanishes again. You can activate and deactivate the seal at will, but it's limited to the usage of 20 hours at max. Naruto explained the usage of the seal. But you're not the only one who has this seal. Sakura and the Uzu team have them too. He stated calm, and she gave him a questioning look. I can understand why Sakura has one. You trained her after all, but why the Uzu team? Ino asked confused. They have them because they have faced things Konoha's genins didn't so far. So I trust them with the usage of the seal. But like you, they are instructed to only use it in a life and death situation, he explained. Will you also give Sasuke one? She asked, hoping he wouldn't. No, I won't. When Sakura uses the seal, she's more than capable of getting him and herself out of a dangerous situation. I made sure of that. The vampire sighed as he remembered how he drilled the poor girl into the ground. After his training, she could hide from the young members of the Kitsune clan despite their good noses. She was of course no match for the trained noses of the older ones or against a skilled censor, but her stealth was above that of a genin for sure. How about a coffee? The vampire smiled and pointed to the nearby coffee shop. I would like that. She smiled and told her parents where she was going. The Chunin exam had just begun and Naruto felt the presences of 5 blood fang seals ready for use. That meant that all 5 of them had placed them on themselves just like he told them to. Right now the vampire Kitsune sat vertical on the wall outside the exam room and extended his senses to see what was going on inside the class. Many teams were there, and just like he predicted, a Odo team was there. This was another proof that the pedophile snake would make his move during the exam. He frowned as he felt a Jinchuriki in there. This one wasn't part of his calculation, and he had to warn Hiruzen as soon as possible about it. A clone popped into existence without his chakra spiking and vanished to inform his leader. The sudden yelling of Ibiki made him focus again, and he smiled. Team 7 stood before the academy building and frowned at the memories it held, from the most boring time of their lives. I hate that place, Sasuke muttered as he stared at the front of the building. You and me both. Sakura sighed as she remembered how much time she had wasted to pound useless knowledge into her brain. This place suck. You had to learn here, Sakura-san, Ayuna asked as she walked up to them with her team behind her. Morning, Ayuna-chan, Tobamaru-san, Mikado-san. How are you today? The bubblegum-haired girl asked with a cheerful smile. She had grown to like the three Uzu genin and really cared for them. Sasuke looked at the three with confusion. Their headbands showed a swirl, a symbol he had seen before on his adopted brother. Who are you three? The raven-haired teen asked, a bit confused how his teammate knew them. Oh, I'm sorry. We are a team from the land of whirlpools and represent the village of Uzushiogakure. This is Seiki Tobamaru and this is Mashiki Ayuna. Mikado introduced his teammates. And you are? Sasuke asked as he rose an eyebrow at the red-headed boy. Oh, how careless of me. My name is Uzumaki Mikado. The boy introduced himself with a smile and offered the Uchiha his hand as a greeting. Sasuke stared at the boy in shock. Here was a boy introducing himself as a Uzumaki. The same Uzumaki clan his adopted brother was born into but grew up alone. You are a member of the Uzumaki clan? Sasuke asked with a dark scowl. The other four teens looked at the Uchiha and realized just what was happening. They all knew about Naruto's circumstances growing up and how Sasuke was related to the vampire. So you are the people that put Naruto-ni-san through all this suffering, the Uchiha growled. We are well aware of the suffering Naruto-sama went through, but I can tell you that we had no hand in his fate. When Naruto-sama came to us and united our scattered clan members, we finally found out what happened to the clan's princess. I can assure you that we tried to make up for all the sufferings he went through, but he never wanted anything. He even went as far and said that it made him who he was today. Mikado explained as calm as possible as he remembered what his idol and clan head had went through in his short life. He's right, Sasuke-kun. Naruto-sensei told me how he met his clan and how he forgave them. Their cage is also a Uzumaki that sensei approved of. Do you think he would have done that if he held a grudge against them? Sakura reasoned with her teammate, and Sasuke released an angry breath but relaxed. I guess you are right, Sakura-san. He sighed. I apologize for my behavior. The teen bowed to the Uzu team. The Whirlpool team looked at the bowing teen with an awkward expression before Sakura did something that no one would ever have expected. She smacked her former obsession on the back of his head and made him stumble forward. Oh, get over it, Sasuke-kun. We all make mistakes, it's only human. That's what sensei told me. The girl huffed and crossed her arms in front of her chest. The Uzu team only smiled how Sakura had taken Naruto's advice and became a bit more forward. When she had first come to Uzushiogakure, she had been shy and followed her sensei wherever he went. Only after they returned with the Kitsune clan she opened up to the local genin. Come on, let's go or we will miss the start of the exam, Tobamaru suggested, and everyone nodded. The two teams turned to the entrance and walked inside. As they climbed the stairs, they heard the yelling of other hopeful chunins. The teams stepped into the second floor and turned to go to the third, but felt something disturb their senses. They immediately realized that a genjutsu tried to confuse their senses. With a short burst of chakra, they dispelled the illusion and looked at the other teams that pleaded to get let into the classroom. Sakura only shook her head, bemused how the other teams fell for such a simple trick. She could even tell who the two guards before the room were. The eternal chunins Katetsu and Izumo. Should we tell them? Ayuna asked with an equal bemused look. No. It will lower the competition. It will give us a chance to see who we are up against, and the lesser there are the easier it is, Tobamaru whispered, and the others nodded. With a quick set of hand seals, Sakura covered them in a genjutsu to hide their presence and chakra from everyone else. With their disguise set, they walked past the teams to another set of stairs because the ones they had come up on had a few loose steps from there on and would make noise if stepped on. The jutsu may cloak their presence and chakra to the naked eye, but it didn't cover the noise they made. Where did you learn that genjutsu, Sakura-san? Mikado asked, interested after they had reached the other stairs. Naruto-sensei taught it to me. He tested me if I had a talent for creating genjutsu, but he said that I was not good at it, but learning other already existing would be no problem with my chakra control, she explained as she released the jutsu. Did Naruto-sama create it? Ayuna asked, eager to learn something from the Uzumaki clan head. Well, no, but he perfected it so far that not even the best censor of the Kitsune clan could find him even if he stood right beside them, the girl explained with a proud smile. She had learned so much from the special Jonin and was quite proud to call him her sensei. The other genins looked at her in awe. They knew that Naruto was good, but not this good. Even Sasuke, who knew next to nothing about the Kitsune clan, could understand that it was an amazing feat. As they walked up the stairs, they thought about the upcoming challenge of the first part of the exam. They knew it would probably be some kind of written exam, seeing as it was held in the academy. Upon reaching the right classroom, they were greeted by their senseis Kakashi Hatake and Hirano Sakumo. Good morning, sensei. Team Sakumo greeted their sensei with a bow, gaining a proud nod. Hey there, Kakashi sensei. Sakura and Sasuke gave their sensei a lazy wave, gaining a sweat drop from said man. It's good that you all made it here. If one of you were missing, then you wouldn't be allowed to continue any further, Kakashi explained as he looked over the 5 genin before him. He knew that the Uzu team were strong and would surely make it to Chunin in this exam. His team, just like any of the Konoha teams, were also very powerful since they upped their training shortly after Naruto took Sakura under his tutelage, but they lacked the needed experience. Though he saw that Sakura had gained power and experience during her trip with the special Jonin. Experience she was willing to share with her teammate after their team was reformed for the exam. You really thought we would have come here if didn't chose so unanimously, Mikado deadpanned. He was a Uzumaki after all, and he knew that it was unacceptable to leave someone behind or forcefully overrule them, be it a family member or teammate. The other genin nodded in agreement. Sakumo only grinned, knowing that he was right in teaching his team the Uzumaki philosophy. Kakashi smiled as he recognized the Uzumaki while burning at the teen's eyes. Come on and get in. The exam will begin soon. Sakumo gestured for both teams to enter, and they bowed to their senseis before they walked inside. Inside, they were greeted by a huge load of genin from different villages. Some of them turned to the newcomers but dismissed them just as fast, except for a few. Hey there, Sakura. Ino called as she walked up to her friend. Hey Ino, so you really came? Sakura taunted with a good-natured smile. Of course we came. You didn't really think we went through this hellish training Naruto gave Kurenai-sensei for us and not participate? Ino smirked with a dreamy look as she mentioned Naruto. Unknown to her, Sakura caught the dreamy look and grinned to herself. So what kind of training did Uzumaki-san put you through, Sakura-san? Was it hard? Choji asked as he opened a bag of potato chips. Let's just say that Naruto-sensei doesn't appreciate it if you slack off during training. The girl winced as she remembered her training in Uzushiogakure. That bad? Ino asked, a bit afraid of what Naruto taught her. Trust me, sensei is a monster if it's about training. The pink-haired girl shuddered. Come on, let's take a seat and prepare ourselves for the exam, Shikamaru suggested, and they all nodded. The teams walked through the rows of seats and something disturbing caught Sakura's eye. She saw how Shikamaru's eyes wandered to a blonde Suna girl. The lust in his eyes was obvious. The girl caught his look and gave him her own flirtatious look. Not that any of the other Konoha genin noticed it, though other teams did. What are you up to, Shikamaru? I promise you, if you hurt Ino, I'll rip you to pieces, the girl thought, dark and threw the lazy shinobi a even darker look. The Uzu team saw her look and wondered what got their friend's panties in such a twist. The genins took a seat and looked over the other teams. A few minutes later, the door opened and a man with a scarred face and a black bandana walked in. Silence, you maggots, he yelled, and the genin stared at him in shock. My name is Ibiki Morino and I'll be your proctor for this exam. Well, let's start the first exam, you maggots, the man growled and leaned against his table in the front. You have a test before you with 9 questions. For these questions you have 40 minutes. The 10th question will be given to you after these 40 minutes. The rules are simple. First, if you are caught cheating by any of the chunin in the room, your whole team will be punished and thrown out of the exam. Second, if you take the 10th question and fail, you'll be expelled from the exam forever, Ibiki explained, and the genins gave an angry outcry. But that's not fair. I have seen others retake the exam before, Kiba yelled and jumped from his seat. Well, tough luck, kiddo, but they didn't have me as proctor. Now I make the rules and what I say is law. The tortured specialist grinned. That shut the genin up, though Kiba still growled in his seat. Now begin, he yelled, and the genins scrambled to pick up their tests. Unknown to the genin teams, the proctor felt the heavily suppressed chakra signature outside the window. Even he only noticed it because of a minimal chakra spike, and he still could barely feel it. The man was impressed and knew just who was hiding there. Naruto is really good at hiding. I knew the boy would make it far, though I didn't think it would be so soon, the proctor mused. With a grin, he walked around his desk and sat down with his feet on the desk. The nervous looks and scribbling of the genins made him smile in delight. He just loved to cause panic and terror in such young minds. To his surprise, he didn't see any of it in the Konoha and Uzu teams. The teams were confident and used their skills to copy the answers from the chunins and other genins in the room. It surprised the torture specialist how good the genins used their individual skills. Team 7, consisting of Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura, were the first team to catch his attention. The Uchiha was personally trained by Hatake Kakashi and Uchiha Itachi. He had grown exceptional in the last months. He had trained his fire and lightning affinity to a high level. Right now he used his Sharingan hidden behind a genjutsu to copy the hand movements of a chunin hidden in between the teams. The Haruno girl, on the other hand, had changed completely. Ibiki had heard of her fanatic obsession with her teammate. But now she was a confident kunoichi that knew how to handle herself. She had bloomed under the tutelage of the bloody fang of Konoha. Right now she had her eyes closed and obviously channeled chakra to her ears and listened to the scribbling around her. Just from the sound she seemed to be able to copy all that was written down and let her hand glide over her test. Team 8, consisting of Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba and Aburame Shino. The team had also gained some of his attention since he heard of their progress from his partner in the T&I department. Enko was friends with their sensei and they talked a lot about it. The Hyuga girl had lost her shy attitude since Kurenai had intensified their training. She had mastered her Byakugan to a point that the veins at the side of her eyes during its activation were barely visible. It was what she was using to cheat at the moment, actually. Her teammate Shino, on the other hand, was the same as his clan members and hadn't changed much from the hard training beside gaining 2 new hives in his body. He was stoic, logical and a bit antisocial. Though that worked for him since no one would throw a look in his direction, so he used his bugs to spy the needed answers for him. The last one was the boy named Kiba. He had changed much from the training. His body was more toned and his temper had cooled down. His need to be an alpha had been set back after he had his balls handed to him by the young Hyuga Hanabi. The boy used his little dog to help him cheat. The dog seemed to move his body in a certain pattern to show his partner what were the answers. Team 9, consisting of Rock Lee, Hyuga Neji and Ten had also gained his interest because of their eccentric sensei. Rock Lee was a young and hard-working man that, despite his inability to mold chakra, had achieved great things. He was determined to prove himself in the eyes of his sensei, his team, the village and most of all himself. His teammate Ten was an orphan that had specialized in weapon usage of all kind. She was a true weapon mistress in making. And even now she used her weapons to gain knowledge. Previous to the exam she had placed a mirror above many seats in the room without anyone noticing. Using them she answered her own questions and tapped with her other hand's index finger on the table. She used a tap code her team had developed to tell her spandex-clad partner the needed answers. Hyuga Neji, on the other hand, used his dojutsu just like his cousin. Too bad for him that he hadn't mastered it to the point Hinata did, but since none of the chunins called him out on it, Ibiki kept his mouth shut. He after all only called on teams if he was informed. Team 10, consisting of Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru and Akamichi Choji, was the last Konoha team that had caught the torture specialist's interest. The heir of the Yamanaka clan had a strong will to her since her father had brought her to the T&I department shortly after the attempted rape that was stopped by Naruto. Ever since then she had become a prodigy in her clan's ninjutsu, and she proved it by partially diving into different minds right now without leaving her body behind. Ibiki smiled how his best friend's daughter had developed. Her teammate Choji, like all Akamichi, was a bit on the heavy-built side but a good boy through and through. He may not be the brightest candle in the glower, but he was loyal to his friends and family. Right now though he seemed to stumble a bit since he didn't have any means to use his abilities to gain the answers. A sudden glint in his eyes made the proctor smile though. The boy was getting help by his blonde teammate. The last member of the team was the young genius of the Nara clan. The boy had an IQ from over 200 just like his father, so he didn't need to cheat on the test. But something caught the proctor's eyes. He knew that the boy was dating his blonde teammate, but the looks he was giving the girl from Suna made him frown. Ibiki cared for Ino like she was part of his family, and the signs he was showing made him want to torture the boy. Unlike others, Ibiki knew of Naruto's and Ino's feelings for each other and how they were too unsure of themselves to admit it to each other. The team from Uzushiogakure was also very interesting. From what he had gathered in the short time since their arrival was that they were part of the newly revived Uzushiogakure under the leadership of Uzumaki Tayuya, Naruto's cousin. It came as a big surprise that Uzushiogakure was back and bigger than ever. What he had been told by the Hokage was that the team consisted of Seiki Tobamaru, Mashiki Ayuna and Uzumaki Mikado. Tobamaru was a member of a new clan known for their storm release. They could create storms of all kinds with wave of their hand. The boy sat before his test and identified each chunin in the room with just one look before he smirked and began to answer the questions like it was nothing. His only female teammate Ayuna was also from a new clan. It was said that they could manipulate water like one others. They didn't even need jutsu to do so, just their will. Right now she used it to created small water mirrors to collect informations without letting her chakra spike. The last member was Mikado. A member of the dead-believed Uzumaki clan till their seemingly miraculous reappearance. True to his heritage, did he have an ungovernable amount of fire shining in his eyes. Surely would his stamina and chakra reserves be through the roof compared to other genin his age. Though he seemed to be able to govern this wild mind into a sharp and deadly blade. So without even giving others a glance, her rushed through his test and finished it in bare minutes. To Ibiki it seemed like the genins from Uzu were far more advanced in strength and experience than most other teams. The proctor smiled as he knew who would pass this part of the exam with ease. Team 24, you're out, the man yelled with glee in his eyes. The genins tried to protest, but he wouldn't hear any of it and they were forcefully removed from the room. He then looked up at the clock and whistled in silence. The 40 minutes had already passed and he had to give them the 10th question now. Pens down, you maggots. Your time's up. Now for the 10th question. The proctor bellowed and stood up to walk around the front of the room. All genins looked at the scarred man in silence. His presence was breathtaking, so it kept them naturally quiet. Okay. Ibiki hissed, but more calm. Remember the second rule I told you about earlier. So which of you pussies has it in them to take the question? But remember that if one of your teammates steps down, your whole team will be expelled. Though you can still partake in the next exam. The proctor grinned like a madman. The teams tensed but remained quiet. Slowly but steady teams began to stand up and leave the room. Just 15 minutes later, half the teams left. The teams that remained were all the Konoha teams, the Uzu team, the Suna team and some others. Now to all of you that remained here, you pass, the man exclaimed. What? Everyone roared in shock. What's that supposed to mean? We didn't even answer the 10th question, the Suna girl yelled. The 10th question was a test in itself to see if you had it in you to make a leap of trust, something you have to do as chunin from time to time. You will not always have all informations regarding a mission or run into unforeseen situations during one, and then you have to trust your gut feeling in order to continue or stop the mission. A new calm voice echoed through the room and silenced the genins. Naruto stepped out of the shadows with his hands folded behind his back and stopped beside Ibiki. The proctor nodded to his colleague before he turned to the class. He is right. This exam was not only to test your knowledge and ability to gain informations from your surrounding, but also to test your faith in yourself. Ibiki explained calm as he took a cigarette that Naruto offered him and lit it. Just then the window beside the two proctors was smashed in and a banner was spanned behind them by a pair of kunai. Proctor of the second exam. The sexy, amazing and single Anko Mitarashi was written on it. A blur shot through the broken window and stopped between the proctors and the class. It was a woman with purple hair, a beige cloak, a see-through mesh armor showing off her well-trained upper body and a short dark skirt. The sexy Anko Mitarashi is here, she exclaimed and stretched her arms in the air. The genins sat in silence and stared at the crazy woman before them. Did you have to make your entrance that flashy Anko-san? Naruto sighed as he stepped beside her and rubbed his still ringing ear. Ah, did I hurt your ears, Naru-chan? She cooed, much to the annoyance of two blondes in the room. Please refrain from flirting with me during the exam. It is unprofessional. The vampire deadpanned. But I wanna. The woman pouted, gaining a few giggles here and there. HMPH. Well then, let's go, kiddies. Meet Naru-chan and me at training ground 44 in 30 minutes. If you're late, then you'll forfeit your place in the exam. The snake mistress huffed and crossed her arms under her chest, showing of her assets even more. She turned to leave with a sultry swing of her hip and walked back to the window she entered through just minutes ago and waited. Naruto just nodded towards the genins and gave Ibiki a small wave before he turned to follow the purple-haired proctor. Next time you make an entrance like that, Anko-san, please don't forget to wear panties. Such flashy moves are very taxing towards your male allies. The vampire stated dry as he walked past the woman, much to her joy that he noticed and shock of the genins. INO growled at the woman, knowing that she also had a thing for her crush, but she knew she couldn't do anything against the woman at the moment. The proctors of the second exam then jumped out the window towards training ground 44. The genins took that as a sign and scrambled out of the room to get to the training ground. Ibiki only shook his head and began to pick up the paper tests. Naruto and Anko stood before the fence that surrounded the forest of death. Anko watched the genin before her with a sadistic glee while Naruto held her in place with his shadow so she wouldn't do something stupid. Now that you are all here, we can continue. Naruto began before he pointed behind himself with his right thumb. What you see behind me is training ground 44, or as others call it, the forest of death. In there the second part of the exam will be held. Each of your teams will get one scroll. It will either be a heaven or earth scroll, and your goal is to get a complete set. You have 5 days to accomplish this task, he explained while a few chunins began to give out documents. The documents you were just given are insurance for the village. During this exam, people will die, be it due to the dangerous beasts in the forest or through other teams. Before you begin, you have to sign this so that Konoha won't be blamed for your death, he explained with a small grin that was overshadowed by Anko's insane one. But what about food if we have to stay there for 5 days? Choji stammered at the thought that he would starve to death. The forest supplies more than enough food. Be it plants or meat. You just have to know how to find it. Anko explained as she felt Naruto's hold loosen on her. Once you reach in your documents, your teams will get a scroll and a gate number you will start from. You have 30 minutes for this. Any team that has no scroll after that time will be disqualified. Naruto explained as calm as possible as he saw Anko think about how she could torment the genin. The genin began to murmur and shift around as they discussed the documents in their hands. Some filled them without a second thought and some didn't, but slowly the first teams came to get their scrolls. Anko in the meantime found a new hobby for herself. If she wasn't allowed to torment the genin, then she would flirt with Naruto as much as she could without anyone interfering. Now that we are undisturbed, we could finally get to know each other better, she purred as she traced her right index finger across his chest. While I find you very attractive, Anko-san, I don't think it would work out for us. For one, you are 6 years older than me. Secondly, my heart belongs to someone else, and thirdly, it's unprofessional to behave like that out in the open. Naruto deadpanned as he removed her hand tenderly. Ah, come on. Give me a chance, Naru-chan. I'm sure I can make you happy. The young woman pouted. Please stop it, Anko-san. I want to get this exam started without any problems, and then we have our own mission to accomplish. So I need you at your best till this part of the exam is finished. Naruto sighed and straightened his back, much to Anko's confusion. Her confusion was replaced with a maniacal grin as she saw all genin teams stand before a gate. Okay, you maggots. Now that you all got your scrolls, it's time to get this party started. Anko yelled with glee and the gates opened. The moment they were open, the teams shot into the forest. Once they were out of sight, Naruto and Anko picked up their gear from behind the table with the remaining scrolls and put it on. The young vampire felt the skull-like seal between his shoulder blades pulsate as he strapped the fox fangs to his back. The sword of sealing Motoko ne gave me is pulsating. That can't mean anything good. Naruto frowned. Something wrong, Naru-chan? Anko asked as she noticed his frown. Call it a bad feeling. The vampire shrugged. Should we be worried? She asked, concerned. She knew that if Naruto had a bad feeling, it couldn't mean anything good. Naruto only shook his head, hoping for the best. Let's go. We can't lose track of them, she urged, and they rushed into the forest, fully concentrated on their mission. Come on, Sasuke-kun. We should keep up the pace. Something doesn't feel right, Sakura called over her shoulder as she jumped to the next branch. You're right. Something is really strange. The forest is too quiet. Sasuke agreed as he followed his teammate. A whistling sound caught Sakura's attention and her eyes widened. Incoming, she yelled, and the two jumped away from each other. The sound revealed itself as a kunai that had been aimed at Sakura's back. The genin stopped with their weapons at ready, crouched on a few branches away. They faced their attacker with dark looks on their faces. There before them crouched a creepy-looking man with white skin, long black hair and yellow snake-like eyes. Orochimaru, the snake Sannin. What are you doing here? Sakura scowled and tightened the grip on the ninjutsu Naruto had given her. Oh, so you know who I am? Impressive. The missing nin chuckled but was interrupted by the pink-haired genin. Of course I know who you are, you pedophile boy lover. She sneered, feeling confident despite the dangerous nin's presence. Shut up, girl. Orochimaru's sinister smile vanished and was replaced by an angry sneer. Or what? I know for a fact that the worst you can do to me is kill me because you are a limp dick when it comes to women. You can only get off on little boys. Sakura grinned at the furious man. Sasuke meanwhile twitched at each word of his teammate. He knew that she had gained a huge confidence boost during her training with Naruto, but this was going too far. She was literally calling for their deaths. It didn't help that the snake nin seemingly was a pedophile with a high interest in boys because he threw the young Uchiha weird glances whenever he could. Sakura in the meantime was biding her time because she knew that Naruto was nearby. So while she insulted the Sannin, she flared her chakra. Orochimaru was way too pissed to notice the small fluctuations in her chakra. A few trees away, two figures looked at the scene. Your girl sure knows how to press the snake pervert's buttons. Anko grinned with glee. Oh yeah, she sure does. Tayuya taught her well. I'm sure you three will get along just fine once this is over. Naruto grinned as he pushed a small amount of chakra into the communication seal on his body. The moment he did that, the seal on Sakura's body began to vibrate gently. The grin on Sakura's face grew as she took the next step of her plan. With a small push of her chakra, she activated the fully charged blood fang seal over her heart. The effect came immediately. She felt her muscle tense and her blood began to boil. It felt like a rush of pure power flooding her body and mind. She could feel the air prickle against her skin like a small storm. Her teeth grew longer and sharper while her eyes gained a red tint. She felt invincible, almost like she could handle Orochimaru with her pinky only and her other hand tied to her back. The power-inducted haze on her mind cleared as she remembered the order Naruto had given her when he gave her the seal in his trust. The moment the first rush of power was gone, she vanished in a blur. Sasuke vanished in the same blur and the two were gone in a mere second. The snake Sannin stared at the branches the two genin stood till now with a shocked expression. He tried to wrap his mind around what just happened. He had felt the girl's chakra spike for a second and then they were gone. There was no way for anyone to possess such speed unless one used the Hiroshin no Jutsu. What the fuck? He exclaimed but hadn't any time to ponder on it because he jumped back to evade an incoming attack. He stared at the two newcomers and grinned when he recognized both of them. Well, if it isn't my little Anko-chan and the bloody fang of Konoha. To what do I owe this honor? He laughed to bide his time to recollect himself. Orochimaru of the Sannin, you are hereby under arrest for high treason against Konoha. I know you won't come with us peacefully, but this will only make it more interesting. The vampire grinned as he pulled forth his swords. He shot forward and slashed at the Sannin, who barely evaded the attack. Fuck, he is way too fast. I can't evade him and keep an eye on Anko. Wait, Anko. Orochimaru scowled before a grin formed on his face. He formed a hand sign and pumped chakra into one of the many seals on his body. Naruto took Orochimaru's distraction to deliver the finishing blow to the man, but the pained outcry of his partner made him stop and turn to her. Anko squirmed on the branch and screamed in agony. The curse seal on her body glowed fire red against her pale skin. With one jump, the teen was by his partner and crouched beside her. Can you hear me, Anko? He asked, concerned, but kept his eyes on the smirking Sannin. Yes, she hissed through clenched teeth and gripped his arm. That was the moment the young vampire made a mistake. He turned to look at Anko and let the Sannin slip out of his sight. Kill, she hissed before her eyes widened in shock. There behind Naruto hovered the snake nin with the sword of Kusanagi in mid-swing at the young mon's back. Naruto noticed her expression and turned just in time to evade the surely lethal slash if he had been mortal with Anko in his arms. Orochimaru frowned how the vampire escaped his attack, but it turned into a grin as he saw something drip down on the tree branch. A small cut had appeared on Naruto's right biceps. The teen scowled as he looked at the cut because it did more than just damage his clothes and out poison in his body. The Sannin's sword strike had destroyed the seal that held all of Naruto's food reserves. No matter how powerful you are, you won't survive the poison of my Kusanagi. Orochimaru laughed with glee. Your poison may slow down my healing, but I'll survive. You, on the other hand, I'm not so sure about. Naruto growled and pushed his shadow powers all around them. The forest grew darker and a malicious aura spread from Naruto's body. Sets of red glowing eyes began to appear all around them alongside with devilish growling. Orochimaru's concentration on Anko's curse seal broke as he made eye contact with one of the eye sets. These eyes held something unsettling. Take care of him, Baskerville. Naruto snarled and a figure became visible against the black shadows. A tall black dog with a spiked collar stepped on the tree branch to Orochimaru's right. The dog's long tongue hung from his mouth and its red glowing eyes stared right at him. The man shivered as he felt the dark aura of the animal. Then suddenly 4 more eyes opened on the beast's forehead and fixated on him. The dog's mouth began to stretch open and revealed many rows of sharp teeth. Its fur began to bubble away and revealed dark red flesh. With a snarl, the beast jumped forward and attacked the snake nin. He barely evaded the beast and watched in shock how its fangs sunk into the wood and bit right through the solid wood. The branch broke apart from the bite, and with the speed the beast had, it continued to fly further. It twisted its body and landed on a nearby trunk and turned its head to the Sannin with a sick and evil grin on its face. What kind of beast is that? He exclaimed, frightened. For once in a long time he felt fear. Fear that came from this unknown beast's malicious aura. It felt even worse than when he faced Manda without a fitting sacrifice. So only one thing came to mind. He turned and ran as fast as he could with Baskerville hot on his tail. Naruto watched the Sannin flee and let his power faded. The forest returned to normal and his legs buckled under him. Anko and him fell on the branch and panted. Anko because she suffered from the curse seal, and Naruto because he felt the poison spread through his body. Anko, I can barely move. You have to take us to safety as soon as you can. He panted and spat out a goblet of blood. I'll try. She panted and forced herself to her feet. With a deep breath to control herself, she bent down and heaved the young man in an upright position. With another deep breath, she pulled him over her shoulder and took a moment to balance herself with the new weight on top of her. Where should we go? She began to get a hold of her breath. We are too far in the forest to make it outside. Bring us into one of the hollow trees that litter the forest. Naruto groaned as he tried to concentrate his healing factor on the poison. Anko nodded and looked around till she found one not too far away from them. She could only hope that it was uninhabited because neither of them could handle a fight right now. She pumped chakra into her legs and leapt towards the small cave-like opening in the tree. As she landed on the edge of the entrance, she looked around. The cave was big enough for the two of them to sprawl and still have space. Finding no traces of any living being inside, she jumped in and placed the young vampire against the back wall so he could rest. Anko sat down beside him and tried to relax to let the remaining pain ebb away. While Anko relaxed, Naruto suffered from the drain of his energy due to his healing factor. He felt fangs grow out so that they reached out over his lips. Everything alright, Naruto? Anko asked, concerned, for once not in the mood to tease him. It's the hunger. Orochimaru destroyed my whole blood supply when he slashed the seal on my body, he growled as he restrained himself from attacking the beautiful woman beside him. The longer he waited, the more appealing the idea of sinking his fangs into her soft flesh and drinking her blood became. His head slowly drifted towards her and his mouth opened ready for the bite, but he snapped it back the other direction and clenched his jaw shut. Anko saw it and began to realize what was about to happen. She knew what he needed and that the only reliable source for it was she herself. She knew how it worked. She had seen him drain prisoners more than once and was ready to provide him the blood he needed. You can take my blood, she offered and pushed her coat to the side to reveal the smooth skin of her shoulder. Naruto stared at her shoulder with big eyes as his mouth began to water. He felt his reason drift but snapped back to reality. Are you sure? I don't know if I can stop once I start. The poison was potent enough to challenge my healing factor and that drained my reserves more than I thought. Plus that's not what I'm worried about most, he explained with a growl. Yeah, I trust you not to kill me. I can handle a little pain if you're worried about that. She puffed her chest in pride. Pain? Naruto grinned despite the strain the hunger had on his mind. What's so funny? She asked, confused. The only pain you'll feel is when my fangs pierce your skin. After that is only unlimited pleasure. He grinned but balled his fists so hard that he drew blood. Anko stared at him in shock before she began to imagine the possible pleasure. A goofy grin made itself to her lips and she felt her privates get moist. Let's do it, she exclaimed with a big grin. I hope I can stop myself from killing Anko. She may be a big tease but she is a precious friend. Naruto thought to himself as he leaned over to her. His fangs paused just before they touched her skin and gave her a look. Anko only nodded and closed her eyes. A sharp pain shot through her shoulder, but before she could cry out it, another wave washed over her. A wave of pleasure. A loud moan escaped her as her mind succumbed to the pleasure. Without thinking about it, she wrapped her arms around him and pressed him against her. Naruto for his part felt his mind warp and succumb to the same maddening pleasure with each drop of blood he took from her. Soon the two struggled to remove their clothes and Naruto release hit bite on her shoulder before he moved to her mouth to give her pleasure-filled kiss. Anko ignored the blood that covered her face as he devoured her mouth. To her it was just extra to the maddening pleasure. Soon he bit down on her shoulder again but began to fondle her bare bras. She on the other hand used her left hand to stroke his hard abs while her other hand stroked his boxers that strained against his hard erection. Naruto growled against her shoulder as he felt her soft hand enter his boxers and start stroking his member. He followed her example and slipped his hand between her legs and began to finger her drenched slit. Take me, Naruto, she exclaimed as she came from his fingers only and ripped his boxers in the process. Controlled by his instinct, he followed her order and once again released his hold on her shoulder before he spread her legs. He poised his against the entrance of her slit and with one thrust he shoved it in whole. Anko gasped as another hot wave of pleasure entered her body along with the pleasure from his bite. She could only scream as her mind finally shut down from all the pleasure. The next few hours were spent in blind pleasure with more bites and kisses exchanged between them. Soon after they finished they succumbed to the darkness of sleep. The next morning the first beams of the morning sun broke through the thick layer of leaves over the forest and into the hollow tree. Naruto was the first to stir because he felt the sun on his skin. While it didn't hurt him, he still felt disturbed by the tingling feeling it gave him. His eyes opened and he blinked against the sunlight before he sat up and focused on his surrounding. He saw many clothes sprawled around the cave and felt the wood against his gnawed skin. Then he noticed the new and blood-daubed form of Anko sleeping beside. The taste of her blood still lingered in his mouth, but unlike the day before, her kept control of himself. His hunger was stilled for the moment. He eyed the new woman with care as the haze over his memories of the last night began to lift. A small blush worked itself on his cheeks as he remembered each little and perverted detail of it. Though the smile was crushed immediately as he remembered the crush he had on INO and how he had betrayed his own feelings towards her. Sometimes I hate my vampire instincts, He growled and slapped himself in the face to get his mind back on track. Wah, where am I? I don't remember getting hammered last night. Anko moaned as she sat up. She looked around and stared at the new Naruto. It took her a moment to realize what or who she was looking at before a massive blush worked itself on her face. Nah, Naru-chan, she asked shocked. Good morning Anko. He answered with a creepy smile that seemed very similar to her own. Wah, oh the exam. Orochi Tem, the sex, she murmured as she remembered. Come on get dressed we need to get going and inform the old man about what happened with Orochimaru. Naruto explained as he unsealed a spare set of his clothes and sealed away his old clothes. Anko only nodded dumbly as she watched him move around, drinking in every detail of his body. How his muscles flexed under his skin or how his eyes held a mysterious glow that was noticeable whenever he turned away from the light. Suddenly she realized what she was doing and jumped to her feet to get dressed as well, but something felt amiss. The constant sting in her shoulder was gone. She looked at it and stopped in mid-step. The mark that had plagued her mind and body for years was gone. It just wasn't there anymore. It just vanished overnight. The only thing that remained was a bite mark-like scar. Nah, Naruto, she stuttered in shock. Is something wrong? Do you feel sick? He asked as he donned his leather jacket. My ma, she stuttered, unable to comprehend the situation. Your mama? He asked confused. My mark, you idiot, she yelled and pointed at her shoulder. Naruto stared at her shoulder in confusion before realization dawned on him. The curse mark on her body had disappeared and left behind was a mark that resembled his bite mark. He tried to remember what he did that could have destroyed the mark. It took him a while, but he came to a conclusion. I think I sussed out the part of Orochimaru's soul that was within the seal, and without it the seal couldn't hold itself together and collapsed, he explained with a thoughtful expression. But how? Anko asked stunned. I'm the Shinigami's representative in the mortal plane. Did you really think I could only look cool and do some fancy tricks? Like Motoko ne, I can affect a soul directly, he explained calm and strapped his blades to his back. Anko nodded dumbly, too stunned to make a scene, and put on her cloak. A few minutes later the two Jonin left their hideout and hurried towards the Hokage Tower to give their report. As they ran, the young vampire extended his senses and felt for the 5 blood fang seals that were inside the forest. 4 of them were on unused and on standby. Only one was activated but set to standby. But all seals were inside the tower, much to his relief. He also didn't feel any newly placed curse seal, so he knew that Sasuke was safe for now. By the way, Anko, can we keep what happened here to ourselves? He asked, a bit unsure. You mean our passionate? She grinned but was interrupted by him. Yes, I mean that. You know that I like someone else and I already feel bad enough that I betrayed my own feelings for her. While I undoubtedly enjoyed it, it doesn't change the fact that I still stand to my feelings. He sighed as he imagined how INO would react should she ever find out about his weakness. Okay, but you're making it quite hard to, because it was really good. She smiled and swore to herself that she would find out who he liked and talk her into sharing him. Pumping more chakra into their legs, they leapt from the thick forest into the smaller trees and continued towards the tower. You think Naruto ni will be alright? Sasuke asked as he and Sakura ate their lunch. Of course he'll be fine. Sensei is strong. I'm more worried about that Anko woman. She has a history with Orochimaru. She could have become Sensei's weakness if things turned bad. Sakura mused more to herself than to him. Very reassuring, Sakura. You just know how to build up my confidence in Naruto ni's safety, the Uchiha mumbled with a mock frown. Sorry. I'm also worried about him, but I'm sure he is fine, she assured him. Got that right, Sakura. No way in hell will Naruto-sama die because of the snake pedophile. Mikado exclaimed as he and his team walked up to them with their trays in hand. Hey there. How are you today? Sakura greeted the Uzu team. Everything's fine, Sakura, thanks. Ayuna smiled and sat beside the bubble-haired girl. The boys only nodded their answer and sat down with their own food. So how did you two get here so fast? You were here before us and that freaky Suna team. Tobamaru asked, curious. I snitched an extra scroll when I handed our wills back to get a scroll. Sakura shrugged, much to the Uzu team's shock. So you cheated? Ayuna asked, shocked. We are ninja. Cheating is our middle name right after deception. The Konoha girl grinned. That's so badass. Mikado laughed and the others followed his example. I still don't know how you pulled that off. Sasuke grinned as he calmed down a bit. I learned a lot from sensei. He even taught me how to pick pockets in broad daylight even if the person is looking at you. She grinned and Tobamaru smiled. So you learned one of Uzu's mandatory skills for the academy. Impressive for such a short time you've been there. He complimented her. Thanks. She blushed at the praise. Could you teach me how to do that, Sakura? That sounds really useful and cool. Sasuke asked his teammate. Sure, I would love to. She smiled. By the way, Sakura, did you hear the latest rumor before we left Uzu? Ayuna asked with a evil glint in her eyes. The boys knew that glint. It was the sign of a gossip lover. They shivered at the thought but kept their thoughts to themselves. You mean that one where that fisherman saw a fish walk on land like a human? She asked, which gained disbelieving looks from the boys. No, that's so yesterday. I mean the one that Naruto-sama is in love with a Konoha genin. She grinned. This one gained wide eyes from everyone at the table while Sakura also began to sweat. She knew who Ayuna was talking about but she promised her sensei not reveal anything about it. Unfortunately the other girl noticed the nervous twitch of Sakura's eyes and grinned victorious. You know who this rumor is about, don't you, Sakura? She grinned and the boys turned to the poor girl. Naruto ni is in love with a Konoha genin. There are not many girls that are ranked genin. 4 in fact. Sasuke mused and the Uzu team grinned even more. Who would that be except Sakura here? Mikado leaned forward to listen better. Well, there is Hyuga Hinata, Yamanaka Ino and Tenten. The Uchiha listed the girls with a wide grin. Nothing against Sakura but I don't think it's her. I saw how you two interacted and there was nothing more than friendship. Tobamaru explained as he remembered her time in Uzu. Sakura remained tense as she knew that they were now closer to the truth than they should be. Maybe we should think about this from a different angle. Ayuna offered and gained the others' attention. Does Naruto-sama have any hobbies that could relate to any of these girls? She asked and Sasuke began to think about it. Well, Naruto ni has a large flower garden that he tends to with a slight obsession. That's something he has in common with the Yamanaka clan since they own a flower shop. He mused as the Uzu team grinned in victory. But sensei also likes his tea ceremonies. Sakura interjected to throw them of their hot trace. That's true. So it could also be Hinata. Sasuke amended. And what about his fox fangs? Tenten has been bugging him to test them since we came back wave. She came to his compound during the first day of my training and asked about them. Sakura hoped that this was enough to keep them busy. I don't think that counts as a relation since he is not some nut job like she is. Sasuke stopped the idea immediately. Well, shit. I'm sorry, sensei, but I think they are too close to the truth for me to stop them without raising any more questions. Sakura thought, dejected. That reminds me. Isn't Tayuya-sama also after Naruto-sama? Tobamaru asked and threw the group into a new topic. You can say that again. I lived with the two of them and Tayuya-sama made no secret of it that she wants into sensei's pants whenever she gets the chance. Sakura laughed and thanked the boy in her mind. So Ni-san has 2 women that want him and one he wants. How come he is so popular? Sasuke thought aloud. It's his body. Sakura said offhandedly and gained weird looks from everyone. What? Mikado asked as he saw Ayuna ascend to her imaginary wonderland. I mean that his body possesses a natural aura that comes with his Kekkei Genkai. It gives him a aura that make women like him but he has it under control. The fact that Anko-san and Tayuya-sama are after him is probably a coincidence seeing as they have similar personalities, she explained, now calmer because they avoided the dreaded topic. How do you know that? Tobamaru asked, curious. Sensei explained me a lot about his Kekkei Genkai and I even got a few chances to talk to Motoko-sama. She explained and pushed her plate away, finished with her food. Who is Motoko-sama? Ayuna asked, confused. Motoko-sama is the Shinigami. She is the one that raised sensei together with Kurami-sama. Sakura stated calm while the others stared at her in shock. You talked to the Shinigami? Sasuke whispered, awed. Yeah, she's really nice. She even taught me a bit of shogi. She shrugged before she stood up to put her tray away. Come on, guys. We should use the time in the tower to look around a bit and maybe find something out about the people we might face in the next exam, she stated, and the others followed her, eager to find a weakness of their potential enemies.